Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tour podcast and the Towka Talks podcast. We're doing a dual podcast today. This is my good friend, high school teammate, Jonathan Swiatocha. How are you doing today?
Good, Austin. Good to be with you. How are you?
Dude, doing well. Just did some hills out here in Boulder, Colorado, and just excited to chat with you, excited to catch up. Johnny and I were, high school teammates. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and dude, just looked up to you a ton in high school. Johnny was the fast, stoic, strong man, and really set an example, I think, for me and my teammates to end up having like a successful career. And so, been following Johnny's journey, been following him on social media since then, and just excited to get into his story, and we'll talk about my story a little bit too today, but Johnny, if we want to start with you, just like maybe tell the audience a bit of who you are, what you're doing, kind of where you're at in the world.
Sure. So my name is Jonathan Swiatocha. In high school, I went by Johnny. I didn't have much of a choice. When I was a freshman, the guys were like, originally, you look like a Steve. And then other guys were like, no, he's Johnny. And so it just stuck with me. And then, yeah. But yeah, just kind of a funny story on that. But yeah, so I grew up originally in Dallas, Texas. 2004 came, and my family and I moved out to Keller, Texas. Stayed there from intermediate school all the way past high school, and then yeah, obviously got into sports, got into athletics, in particular cross country and track, and pretty much just stuck with that. And even into college, I ran a little bit collegiately. I didn't do anything spectacular because I had a lot of issues and things going on in my life, and obviously we can get into that as well. But yeah, met people like Austin, and I still stay in touch with great friends from middle school and high school to this day, even teachers I'm connected with. And yeah, it's color's always been a part of my life, and it will be to the day I die. And I'm eternally grateful for the change and the growth that I've seen in my own life. And yeah, it's pretty much it was a stepping stone for me as a young man into a man, and that basically was the foundation that I needed into what I'm doing today. So.
Yeah, dude, I agree. I'm repping an Indians shirt right now that I still have. I'm really grateful for the coaches, the teachers, the people in Keller. Just really incredible people. And you're still in the area, correct?
Mhm. I still work in the Keller area. Yes, sir. Mhm.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, we were talking before, you live in Grapevine. You work at um the only running store, Bear Creek Running Company, one of one. I think there's a couple. I think there's a photo of maybe the team of my senior year on the wall. Do you have a photo on the wall in there?
I don't. I look at your guys' photo though quite a bit, and I'm like, I know them.
You need
It's
to put
like
that.
it shows how old I am, but how young the younger people are that work there too, the high schoolers, because they have no idea. They're like, I think I've seen that guy. I just don't know who he is. I'm like, that's Austin Dalquist.
No, that's kind. That's a fun photo, but not as cool as, and maybe we can share it with the announcement post. But our Bumblebee jersey photo, which we even touched on before this, is one of my favorite. And our team that year, I think, you might have been the only senior, and then I think we had a couple juniors and then a bunch of freshmen, and so we, myself especially, looked pretty funny. I was still pretty short at the time, but the jerseys were epic, and so
Mhm.
there's this photo that that I still cherish, and uh, Johnny and I were talking about how we should have kept those jerseys, but yeah, we're so you're also you're doing quite a few different things at once. So mentioned running store. What else are you doing outside of that?
I do YouTube as a hobby right now, and then I have the podcast as well affiliated with my YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel. I decided to basically keep it on there because I thought it'd be easier for people to find it and then to find me. And then obviously I train quite a bit. I stay active, and then trying to just do everything I need to do as an adult. So adult life.
Yeah, uh, no one ever told us that adult life takes a, a lot of time. uh, Doing laundry, cooking, cleaning. There's a lot that goes into it. Shout out to our parents for taking the brunt of that growing up because yeah, it can be hard being an adult. All the things we got to pay for too, all
Right.
the taxes, the registration of the cars, man, everything.
Student loan debt.
Student loan, yeah. You still are you still paying student loan debt?
Bro, I've got, yeah, $32,000 of student loan debt and I didn't
Oh my
finish
gosh.
college. Yeah, I would tell anybody out there listening, if you don't know if you want to go to college or not, consider trade school, consider going to community college, saving money, working in the workforce, and doing it that way, because you don't want to bury yourself in student loan debt because it's not fun.
Dang. Yeah, I am getting my first taste of it. My wife Kara has just got her doctorate degree from Baylor, which is amazing, occupational therapy. But yeah, not a cheap school, not a cheap degree, and so a fun navigation, but definitely worth it. I mean, she's doing what she wants to do. It's just
Right.
yeah, it's expensive. It's expensive out there.
Right.
Um, so one one more question, and then yeah, we can flip it, and maybe I can intro, but um, the the goal behind, I guess I guess maybe listeners maybe want to know the goal behind like your overarching brand, like your movement. Do you have like a mission statement or a value statement for what you're doing, like on YouTube, podcast?
Yeah, so initially when I was creating the YouTube channel, I had to come up with a unique name, but I wanted to keep like my name as the brand. So guys at my work were helping me with it and we came up with like Toka as the first word and then talks because I'm a speaker, obviously. I like communicating and then eventually obviously coming into podcasting and stuff. So it's I don't have an official mission statement, but I like helping people become the heroes of their own story. So like everybody goes through trials and tribulations and struggles and I obviously have a lot to share people. I try to help people as best as I can, but also entertain and inspire them at the same time in every video. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole history and mission behind why I created the channel, the podcast, and then the brand itself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and that's pretty similar to my brand, the tour, which those listening, I guess, on the other side through the Toka Talks podcast is it's called the tour, the brand, and it has roots back to when I was trying to break 4 in the mile for the first time. And for me, it definitely blessed with the talent of running, similar to Jonathan. And I ran 4 flat when I was 19, and then it took me 6 years to break 4 in the mile, and there was a lot of struggles in between there with eating disorder, anxiety, injury, and thinking about giving up on the sport and giving up on something that I've been given and I've been called to do, and one of those things is running. And so I started the tour podcast because I called Breaking Four my sub 4 tour, and that's the name of the Instagram and the website because the tour was taken. But yeah, it has roots to the origin because I was just on tour to break 4, but really the brand is not running specific; it's life specific because in my conversations with people, just being out in public with good friends and even family, I know a lot of people that are doing things that they don't want to do. They've kind of given up on their dream, or they don't really see a way for them to be doing what they want to do, whether that's there's no way to make money to do it according to them, or they just don't have the time or the energy. And this podcast, this movement, this brand serves as encouragement to, hey, let's lean into what set your heart on fire. And for me, there's a huge element of faith to it as well. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and yeah, just believe that having that rooted mindset is really important for life, and putting your talents and putting the things that you do in the right place, and not an idol in your life, but using those in a good way, and for me using it for the kingdom. And so all that to say, the hope behind this brand is to, yeah, get people to take an inward look at themselves and think, what what do I want to do, what should I be doing, because every day is a gift, and you don't want people to waste time or regret life. That's the I think that's that's a sad thing when people look back at their life and they regret not taking a chance or wasting their time doing, and no shade to accountants or anything, but like just working a Excel sheet job for 20 years just to get a pension or something, when maybe they're passionate about art, or maybe they want to compete in a sport, or want to be doing something different. But um, yeah, that's the tour. And yeah, I'll give a little quick intro of myself. Name is Austin Dahlquist. Grew up primarily in Texas, moved around a bunch, but yeah, the found the talent of running because of my middle school coach. He encouraged me to go out for cross country, and yeah, that's how I met Jonathan my freshman year, and continued pursuing running. Ran at the University of Arkansas, and now post collegiately out here in Boulder for a professional team called the Roots Running Project, and yeah, pursuing fastest, maybe a little bit farther and a little bit shorter sometimes, but yeah, also married for 2 years, which is more important, and work an e-commerce job, and yeah, like I mentioned, a man of faith. But um, yeah, really grateful for life and to still be doing what I'm doing. But big shout out to my job too, uh, giving me the flexibility to run and to yeah pursue things outside of just having to work all the time. But yeah, that's me. And I think a place I want to go next, like kind of talking about the tour, talking about your um, Towka Talks, Johnny, is yeah, you've taken on. I feel like you've taken on several things since college, and you're doing several things at once right now, and you're kind of just like, at least from my perspective, pursuing them like full gas. Can you kind of explain like your thought process toward your pursuits? And even I know that you were going like all in on running for a while. I think you were going all in on like weight training, and now you're doing quite a few different things. So do you want to kind of explain like your thought process toward those things?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to make it to like the Olympic trials and eventually the Olympics in running, like in the marathon specifically, but I came to discover that that was never really a dream that I had. It was somebody else's, and I was trying to fulfill that. And so it was just, it wound up not working out, obviously, long story short. So I discovered that I needed to pursue something that was more fulfilling and that I felt very called to do, and obviously that I can make a huge impact on other people's lives. And then that's where the thought of joining the military came in. And so summer 2018, I had a conversation with my mom. She's like, "Why don't you join the Air Force?" Okay, well, I'll pursue that, but I'm 130 pounds. I can barely do two pull-ups. I can't do any push-ups. I can run as far as they tell me to, but for the career field I was going into, there was no way on God's green earth I was going to make it unless I transform myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So for 11 straight months, I did very little running. I got in the gym. I ate a lot cleaner and consumed a lot more. I drank a lot more water. And so when I shipped out on June 11th, 2019, I was 165 pounds. And I kind of kept track with it on social media just so people can see the transformation. But I also kind of stayed in the shadows a little bit just because of what I was going into. So yeah, it was something obviously that I needed to do for myself because I built confidence in who I was, and I kind of like you. I felt like I really did have an eating disorder as well, kind of anorexic because, dude, I got down to like 115 pounds in my collegiate career, like same height, 5'10", and that is just not healthy. I was not in the right frame of mind. I wasn't physically healthy. And so doing all this to gain more weight, strength, and obviously also make confidence, it definitely struck a fire in me that was always inside of me. And then I just kept that even after the military, and then just got better and better and got stronger and stronger, and then started seeing changes in other art areas of my life that have helped me catapult me into what I do today. And so I was like, why don't I take a leap of faith with social media, with posting more and seeing if I can impact people that I don't even know who are across the world Why don't I get back on YouTube after four failed attempts? And then, just no matter what anybody says, no matter what the critics say, who makes fun of me, who has some like vulgar comment, just keep pursuing what you want to do. Because for every vulgar comment there is, there's 10 to 20 people who are thankful for what you do, and you could ultimately save their life, which is what my goal is. It's ultimately to save as many lives as I can, not only physically, mentally, but also ultimately for the kingdom. And so, I stay by that and I live by that. And that's what I always have to remind myself of what I'm doing it for. The reasons are much bigger than just looking good on camera or getting a lot of views. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. 100%. How did you figure out? So you figured out that, oh, this Olympic trials Olympian runner isn't my dream. How did you figure out then what is your dream, or what you ultimately want to do?
To be honest with you, I'm still kind of trying to really figure that, fulfilling your purpose, like finding where you're supposed to go, is obviously living by faith, not by sight. So I've had a couple failed marathon attempts that I really hit hard with me. I trained so many months, was so ready for them. I felt like physically, but I wound up either DNFing or failing miserably. And so those were just like, hit rock bottom, but I didn't have the near confidence or the drive to like pick myself back up. So, I wanted to continue running because that was ultimately like a part of my life for so long. So I was just like, why don't we just keep it fun and I'll just pursue other things that obviously can be more of a career, because there's very few people who can turn running into a professional career. Obviously, you're a prime example of that for what you've achieved in your life and in your career. That's one of the reasons why I love staying in touch with you and watching and seeing what you've achieved in your life, because not many people on God's green earth can run even close to 4 minutes, and the fact that you've broken the 4 minute barrier is mind-boggling. As you were describing that, I was like, dude, that is just so it's so cool to talk with somebody who's achieved that. Hats off to you for doing that. But yeah, so I decided, like, like I said, to just pursue other things that I feel like I could have had an opportunity to do. So that's where military, fire department, EMT school, different things, even speaking. I was like, maybe this is my calling. I let God open the doors. I didn't just go into them necessarily. At times he opened the doors, but I wasn't necessarily meant to go through them, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So like I found out the hard way, like walking in and then realizing, oh, I'm not supposed to go this way. I'm supposed to go this way, or
Mm.
I'm supposed to stop and let God direct my steps. So yeah, it's been basically trial and error, but also like depending on him and leaning into him when the times have got really hard at different moments. I've had a very, I guess, uh, unique career and unique life, to say the least, because I've been through so many things in 32 years. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure everything out, which we're all a work in progress. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's the end of the world.
No, absolutely. I think that's awesome, because I feel like a lot of people maybe listening in general don't know what they should be doing, what they're passionate about, what sets them on fire. And I think a misconception often about the faith is, oh, trusting God, let God work, which is true, but we also have to be um, obedient and embrace opportunities and take action. And Bible says faith without works is dead. And so um, you also, I think it's really admirable for from me to you, and for people to hear, like, you're leaning into all these different opportunities, and you're trying these different things, and um, ultimately you're learning and growing, it sounds like, and enjoying yourself, hopefully. But then yeah, you're finding the way. And yeah, I mean, for me, maybe my own story is a little more straightforward. But 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I had a terrible sacral injury, and I put on 35 pounds, and I was wondering, asking God, and like, is this it for me? Am I ever going to run fast again? And are you still calling me to this? And I still felt called to it, and I still felt excited about running. And I'm so grateful for the sacral injury. And then I had a vocal cord dysfunction a year later, which was just like another slap in the face to where I'm coming off this injury, but then I'm still running poorly at that point. But through continuing to stay at it, I actually relearned how to breathe. I was able to have a ton of breakthrough since then, and I've been able to be there for people that have had sacral injuries and be there for people that have had breathing issues, and hopefully be um, somebody that is a positive. I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Someone that someone can look up to, like, oh, he's kind of a late bloomer. Like, yeah, he was good in high school, and yeah, he was good in college, but he struggled a lot. I struggled a lot in college and then post college, but now I'm running the best I have, and I'm 28, and hopefully it's an inspiration for people. There's a that's like a cliche thing, but it's so true. Is that if you feel called to something and you're passionate about something, keep at it. And there's a lot of fruit at it with it. But I think there's also so much to be said about you with running. You were like, you know, I didn't have I didn't have the drive with it, even when there were failures. It wasn't my dream, and so that's incredible to be able to. Okay, I'm gonna stop doing this then, because I feel like a lot of people, maybe they're good at something naturally, or they've worked at something for a long time. They keep getting after it, even if it's not something that they want to do or they don't enjoy it. And yeah, for me, I don't enjoy running all the time, but it still fires me up, and I believe that God will tell me when it's time to stop. Uh, and I think that'll come through me being fired up about racing and about competing and about running fast. But I just love so much. Yeah, you talking about, yeah, I tried this thing, I got open a door, I went through it, but oh, maybe that wasn't the right door to go through, kind of thing. But incredible to see, yeah, as you continue to work through things. But uh, yeah, I feel like how has that transition been for you? Because I at least our interactions in high school, kind of post, you're more of a reserved person, and now you're posting and you're on social media. Has that kind of been a hard transition for you, or has it been pretty easy?
No, it's not been easy at all, bro. If there's a room of 10 people and I'm in it, like I am definitely the most quiet and reserved. I probably will always be that way for many reasons. I've thought about this a lot over my like last few years of my career, specifically as a speaker. It's not easy to stand in front of 1,200, especially young people, and share something so vulnerable, so like that is so like personal, and then expect many of them to like accept it and like to have like a okay, this is cool, I'm gonna apply it to my own life. I had to step out of my shell to a certain extent. Yeah, I even at work, like in retail, especially like if you're not communicative to people, if you're not like kind, and no matter how they are, they could be a POS, they could be a selfish SOB, stuck up,
Yeah,
whatever. You have to be the best associate and give them the best service so that they will come back and be a customer. Like, regardless of how they treat you, that is how retail works. Those are the rules. I didn't write them. I
mm-hmm.
don't always like it, but it's just the way it is. And I learned that from the moment I started working full time, which was 12 and a half years ago. So, it's just, yeah, I had to step out of my shell though. And that obviously work helped me with that because I help people all ages, everybody basically, all walks of life. So that helps me with my speaking and with getting in front of a camera and talking about stuff, no matter what it is. It could be funny or serious. So it's been a little bit of both to answer your question. I've had definitely at times I don't feel like talking in front of a camera in front of people. I don't feel like doing something, but I know that it could make an impact on somebody's life, and that's ultimately what it's all about. So I just have to remind myself like, hey, this is never about you. It never has been, never will be. Just remember who you're talking to. You're always talking to an audience of one, because that one person's life could be changed forever from what you
Yeah,
say or what you share.
yeah. Oh, that's so good, and I I love that. And what you're sharing makes me think of a quote, and it's God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. and I guess you think about people in the Bible uh, that like Moses didn't want to speak, he didn't want to do things uh, for God, and just a lot of unqualified people, in the Bible, and I feel like I hear speakers or pastors all the time that are like, man, I'm shy, I'm reserved, like no way I was ever supposed to be a pastor, but yeah, what it sounds like is that this is something that you feel called to do. So maybe even though it's not a natural thing for you, you've been able to be used in that way, which is really cool. And yeah, I mean, I think it's scary for anyone to speak in front of a crowd of people, even more extroverted people like myself. I definitely get intimidated. I'd say I'd probably get more intimidated if it's a group of people that I know well. If it's a group of people that I don't know, maybe I'm a little less intimidated. But um, yeah, it's a lot. It's really brave. I think similar to running, you're exposing yourself to a lot of people, like you're saying. But yeah, I wanted to dive into your public speaking, and if you're able to share about um, yeah, one of the most impactful things that happened to you, and that is TBI and your injury. Would you be able to share that story?
Yeah, sure. Back in 2002, I was involved in a serious motor vehicle crash that involved an underage drunk driver. Members of my family and myself were involved in it. It was a huge event. Yeah, it was definitely life changing. That night, my younger brother and I were part of a church performance at a mall in Plano, Texas. The performance was done. We all decided to eat dinner that night at the food court in the mall. So then we decided to go our separate ways. My dad came from work that night in his truck. My mom took myself and my two younger siblings and a friend in her van. So my mom was following my dad. She, for some reason, at some point couldn't follow him and wound up going the back ways, which lo and behold, wound up a car accident that wound up happening, which, there were many like what ifs that night. What if we didn't stay and eat at the food court? What if my mom didn't get lost? What if she didn't go right into the intersection when the light turned green? But it's you don't necessarily regret things. You just have to, okay, God's in control. What am I going to do with the mess I'm in? I'm going to turn it into my message. So that's
Yeah.
pretty much what I eventually did. The way the crash happened was we were in the middle lane. A vehicle was to our left and a vehicle was to our right. When the light turned green, this guy was going about 80. It was like a 30, 35 mile an hour road. He crashed into the first vehicle. He killed that 7 month pregnant woman instantly, sent her car into our van, projected us into 7 feet in the midair, and then we crashed like right next to the third vehicle. So it was a horrific incident that happened. And as a result of that, I suffered a TBI or traumatic brain injury. Wound up getting put into the ICU on life support and spent 2.5 days in there. Woke up on the third day, found myself paralyzed and had no feeling or movement in my left arm. So it was a long road for me. But miraculously, as a result of all that, I only spent 18 days in the hospital. I only spent a few months of outpatient therapy going through the same things I was doing in the hospital. And I'll still remember it always, but the neurologist told my mom and I, as I was getting released from inpatient care, which is when they send you home basically, no football. That was the first thing he said. And then he also said, you may not see the effects of the brain injury right away, like, because I was only 10 when all this happened. You're going to probably see them late teens, early to mid 20s, which is exactly what wound up happening. That's why I was severely struggling in college and even after college, more emotionally and mentally, cognitively, especially when it came to academics. And so, yeah, that was just the beginning of the whole journey towards recovery and healing and working towards and working through things. So yeah, it's definitely a long story, but that was basically the foundation of the reason why I started speaking was because I knew that this whole story, this whole incident that happened to me was horrific, but I can turn all that into something positive and something good instead of just keeping it internally. I can share it with somebody, even if they haven't been through a car accident or a brain injury or have been through something like had family issues. But Everybody's had some sort of trauma. Everybody's been isolated, some sort of depression, anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, unforgiveness. And I can use those messages to tie everything together and use it to help somebody who's struggling. And I'm still struggling to this day as we're having this interview. I still have my ups and downs. Some days are good, some days are bad. That's just part of living with a TBI. But I do my best every single day to remind myself of who I depend on, who I lean into, and the people around me who pick me up when I fall down. And yeah, it wasn't an overnight process to say the least, Austin, because I wasn't always like this, unfortunately. But I learned through the many times that I've been at the very depths of giving up and ending everything, and so to speak, giving like just ending it all. No, God saved my life on December 6th, 2002 for a reason. He
Mm-hmm.
has more work for me to do on this earth, and I'm gonna fulfill it to the best of my ability, no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's why I got into speaking and to doing things I'm doing.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, terrible, tragic story, and yeah, just so thankful that you're alive, and that it wasn't worse, and just yeah, so amazing that you're not allowing that to define you, and you're able to use that terrible incident, and um yeah, I believe there's so much redemption that ultimately comes from those bad things that happen to us, and you can either let them rule you, or you can use it and rule it and use it for good. So I know for a fact, I mean, it's inspired me. I know for a fact that it's really positively impacted others. um, and just being able to speak about it and speak about your struggles. And thankfully, we the world today is much better about being transparent about things. But it's so amazing and refreshing that you're able to share that, and be there for somebody that could also definitely be struggling too, or dealing with yeah, an accident or trauma. What do you think was the hardest the hardest time? I guess you mentioned late teens, early 20s. What do you think the hardest part of the whole process was?
There were definitely a few moments. A lot of people actually don't know this. We actually met the driver years later. It was coordinated through the Dallas Morning News. To keep a long story short, or a like a meeting was set up to where like, okay, we can meet him and just condolences, forgiveness, all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so that wound up happening. It was a really nice meeting. We exchanged numbers. We thought we were going to go out and share the story from both sides because he had turned his life around after being in prison for a few years. And
Yeah.
it was really cool. He was engaged. He was in AA. It seemed like this dude had really like turned things around and wound up not doing that. It wound up being the complete opposite. Months later, we found out that he had actually, after that meeting, like a few months after that, had driven intoxicated again. It was going even faster. Thank God didn't hit anybody, but he wound up breaking his probation. So that's why they sent
Yeah.
him back into prison, or wanted to send him back into prison. And so we had to go to court and yeah, basically relive the night all over again. And yeah, that's so it didn't turn out the way we were hoping. But yeah, that was one of those moments where it was like for me, as somebody who survived and endured the things I endure even to this day as a result of that night, like there are things that I don't talk about like publicly just because they're more personal. But like I've had those moments in my life where it's like, I'm tired. I'm tired of feeling different. I hate the way I feel. I hate the way that I've had to see my family members struggle. Like it just sucks. And it's all because this dude did something so selfish that night. Like, it's one of those bitter moments where it's like, you feel like strangling the person, and it doesn't help that I do jujitsu because
Yeah.
I would know exactly what I want to do, but it wouldn't end in the long run. In the long run for me, it wouldn't end well.
Yeah.
So there have been moments like that. There have been moments to where, like relationship wise, I've had difficulty engaging with peers. So like making friends, having the courage to ask girls out that I'm attracted to, just stuff like that, man. It's like obviously things that other people go through, other guys go through as well, but it's a little bit different just because my brain is wired differently.
Yeah.
as a result of the injury. And yeah, just accepting the reality that, hey, I'm not the same as I used to be or could be. And then it's just, leaning more into my faith. As I said earlier, like I haven't always been as strong or outspoken about my faith and trust in the Lord. And that obviously came later on in life, but better now than never.
Yeah.
So yeah, just things like that. It's been tough at times, but all in all, I wouldn't change anything to keep it short and simple.
Yeah, man, and I think that's what's hard too, because it's the you have an invisible injury, and it's not something that somebody can see. Uh, and I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's hard for people to understand. And so, yeah, that's particularly makes it particularly difficult, but is amazing. Yeah, your perspective on it, and like you said, hurting someone that made a bad selfish decision isn't going to help anything, unfortunately. And yeah, unforgiveness is just poison that you give yourself, and it's unfortunate that he hasn't learned his lesson, and hopefully he does one day, and hopefully he does turn his life around. But um, yeah, it's easier said than done for sure. But uh, yeah, being able to allow the Lord, in my opinion, to handle that is the way to go with it. Is there like specific when after the accident, was there like specific rehab that you had to do for for the injury, or was it uh, you were in the hospital and you recovered, and you were able to kind of go from there?
Yeah, I think every brain injury is different, but I worked with the physical therapist, speech therapist, and occupational therapist. I worked definitely more even when I got released from the hospital with the speech therapist, and even to go furthermore, I worked with a brain health center that's connected with UT Dallas, and I still stay in touch with them to this day. Praise God, I was able to get connected with them, was able to do like a yearly assessment, and they had a program that I qualified for to where like I could get help, and they were testing me basically every year, like once or twice a year, just to see the prognosis and the if I was getting any better. It was different like areas, but the way I've described to people over the years, like it basically is like I was taking the SAT and ACT for brain injuries every single time. Like it would be like a 3 hour test. Of different things, different skills, like reading stories, different tasks that you would do, like listening, memory stuff, and I would just be exhausted, like absolutely depleted, like physically, mentally, emotionally, because like a lot of it was just debilitating because I couldn't do what they were telling me to do, or I was just struggling. And over time I would kind of in my internally like see some results, feel like I was getting better, but it just didn't, sometimes it just didn't translate. And it got even worse as I was actually in school. I still to this day don't know how I was able to pass a lot of classes that I took, because man, like I didn't get any extra time on tests, I didn't get extra time or help on the college exams or anything like that. And yeah, when I tell speech therapists or occupational therapists any of that, they're like amazed at how I'm able to do the things I'm able to do today. Because like you just said, it's the invisible injury. You would never know just by listening to me or talking to me.
Yeah.
But I just give all the glory to God for it. That's really the only explanation I have. Like for everything I'm able to achieve and have achieved in my life, it's just it's not me. It's all been miracle after miracle. So yeah, it's been a work in progress to say the least.
Yeah, man. Yeah, walking miracle. And it's true. Were you also told that you might not ever walk again after the injury?
They didn't know really what was going to happen. Even when I was in a coma, like on that bed, like I've shared a photo of it, I think, on my Instagram before, of me like wired up and tuned up and all that. Like even when I was in there, they just didn't know. Only way I could communicate was blinking. Like I was just basically lifeless. Like those machines were keeping me alive. So like they didn't know if I was going to come out. They didn't know if I did come out, if I was going to be in a vegetative state, if the paralysis was going to be forever. And just being so young back then, I didn't really understand what was happening or going on. Like I knew where I was. I knew I was in a hospital. I felt it was more like the pain and excruciating nights of like not being able to sleep. those are the nights I really remember. I don't remember like, oh man, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get out of this. I don't know if I'm ever gonna be normal. Like if I were to go through it today, like obviously have more a sense of, okay, am I gonna be able to go back to work? Am I gonna be able to work out or whatever? You know, it's just you have a different perspective as like because it was a different stage of life for me.
Definitely.
But it was just different, I guess, because they just didn't know. It was just like one of those things where you just really honestly don't know. You just try to take it day by day and just hope and pray. For me, at least, as a man of faith, that it was just gonna miraculously change and turn around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like you mentioned, it's a miracle that you survived and that you're able to do all the incredible things that you've done and yeah, compete elite at an elite high school level, elite college level, and yeah, be able to yeah still compete athletically and um, still break in 60 in the 400 and stuff, which is sweet. And so yeah, man, thank you for sharing all that. Let's a little bit. I'd like to dive into the relationship piece that you mentioned, like that. It's it's been a little more difficult for you talking to girls and um, yeah, I've seen you interact with people too on YouTube and on social media with kind of people young and old, and you talk about maybe interacting with a lot of different customers at work, and so maybe do you want to talk about that relationship piece? I think that's kind of a huge thing behind what the tour is about, like having a supportive community around you. Do you maybe want to kind of talk about yeah relationships and maybe those around you, your community?
Sure. So I am like very selective of who I surround myself with. Like the people that I like to learn more about or that I like to keep involved with like YouTube and with like my journey or my training. Even in dating, like I'm very, very particular of who I date. Like she has to be a godly woman first and foremost, and then she has to have these other characteristics or traits. So it all is important to me. I value my time, I value my effort, and I'm a very productive person. So even on my days off, like I'm doing something like preparing food or like for the next week or washing my car, doing laundry, paying bills. Like I'm constantly doing stuff if I'm not working out or working. So the people that I surround myself with are adding value to me. And that's what I ultimately have learned. Is this person going to build you up or are they just going to keep you from fulfilling your like, potential? So yeah, it's definitely crucial for me to keep doing that and keep like, hey, you need to keep doing this. You need to keep in contact with this person even if they're not in the same place. You know, it's like, hey, will they add value to your life or will they cause hell, basically cause mayhem? You know, you don't want that. That's not ultimately not what's going to be in the best interest of you or your future. So yeah, it's kind of like a trial and error, so to speak, with when it comes to people.
Yeah, no, and that's good. I be- sorry, I completely agree. Like you want to be around people that are going to add value, positive influence, and there's only so many people that you can invest time in, and there's only so many plants that you can water, and you've probably heard the quote, "It's you're the sum of the five closest people that you're around," and I mean, even Jesus had 12 close disciples, and even though he's around a ton of people all the time, he had his 12 closest friends. And there's been studies that I've seen that we as humans can't really handle the connectivity that we have these days with social media and with our devices being able to talk to all these different people. It's too much. We can really only have deep personal relationships with a select few amount of people. And yeah, I completely agree. You need to be picky about who you let in and who you confide in, and also hold those people to a high standard and hold you to a high standard. Because yeah, I think I believe the only way to reach our full potential is by doing it together with people. We can only get so far on our own and by ourselves. And um, yes, and for me, especially without faith, but um, yeah, there's a lot of settling I think that happens with relationships with people, and um, with friendships, and I think there's a lot of fear in calling each other out, and I think there's a way to do that in a loving way. And I can think of many instances in my life where I've had great friends that call something out of me, or that's what I appreciate about my wife and our relationship is she will call something out, or hold me to the high standard that I want to hold myself to. And so yeah, the relationship piece I think is so important, in having a supportive community, and having people that are going to push you. Um, but I do also, you know, I'm fully on board with loving, trying my best to love everyone that I come across, and I love being trying to be friends with everyone. I'm a people pleaser at heart, but um, I don't know if you've ever heard of or read any Bob Goff, but he he is an amazing author, and just like a full send life liver. And he puts his phone number in the back of all his books. He wrote Love Does and Everybody Always. I don't know if you've heard of those books, but um, I so look up to how he handles his life, because he just is just like radically loving people like Jesus did. And he talks about being interruptible, like Jesus was. Like half his miracles were interrupted, and so he puts his phone number in books, and when people calls him, he answers, and no matter what he's doing. And so that is something that I think is really impactful when it comes to relationships as well. Just being available and being there for people, and even if it's a relationship that you're never going to like go super deep with, or be super close friends with them, like um, still being there for them, still like loving them, and even if it's for a time or something like that. And so um, yeah, I love the answer, because I believe a lot of people are selling themselves short there. Um,
I think you want also, just to add on that, Austin, to have like that reputation, whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, like behind the scenes, like being just kind-hearted, loving, humble, respectful, hardworking person. Because I feel like, especially in the influencer world or the podcaster world, people just have two different identities, and I've just
mhm.
seen it and heard it too many times, even with pastors. Believe it or not, I'm not going to say any names, but like, dude, like this is supposed to be like a loving man or woman of God, and they step in front of audiences of hundreds of thousands of people, and then behind the scenes, when you're on with them one on one, they just are not that type of person. I always want to be that type of person, have that reputation. Obviously, we know each other very well, but like for people who may not know me, like that follow me on my channel or wherever, like if we meet face to face, like I want to be that same exact person.
Yeah.
Like that's just that's where, like, no matter how the person's going or treating you, like just always treat them to the best of your ability, the way Jesus did. And that's just, and it'll come out of you. Like you don't have to try to convert them or do anything like that. Like people will just feel it, the presence of God. They'll see
Mhm.
it through you. And that's where, like, in our world today, especially where more and more people are falling away from it, we need to be the light. We are not the light. Obviously, Jesus is the light, but like, no matter how you're going, no matter what my day is going, no matter if my day is the absolute worst, if I got up really late from bed, if I didn't have a great workout, if I got in a car wreck, if I did something dumb, if I forgot to do something, I hurt somebody, I need to treat the next person I come in contact with the most loving kindness that they've ever felt. And that's a lot easier said than done, but you just want to have that reputation, because we want to be the best, valuable, most, like the best versions of ourselves, and that's the only way you're going to be able to do that. So it just made me think of that as you were describing that.
No, yeah, that's amazing, and I completely agree. Like people will never remember really what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. I know that's another quote that I really love. And yeah, the I think when it comes to our faith, I think people maybe see us as trying to convert them or get our numbers up, but or anything like that. But at the end of the day, that's not up to us at all. And really all we're called to do is try to love them like Jesus does, without any agenda, without any bounds. And so, yeah, you're so right. And that's what being different is. Like the Bible talks about being different, and hopefully through how we love them, which I think is the way to live, having a loving, hopeful mindset. I know it's completely changed my life and how I am. I didn't find God really until my third year of college, and I might have shared my testimony a little bit on my podcast, but or on this podcast, but in a long story short, I was for the first time in my life just failing in running, failing in relationships, and I remember a specific moment in a hotel in Nashville after SECs, just feeling empty and thinking like there has to be more to life than this. And it started a long journey of me finding God, and still a process to this day. But yeah, I'm so in support of let's just try to live like Jesus, because he set the perfect example, and just let him take care of the rest, because living like that has just made everything so much better for me. Even if from the outside people say, even if from the outside things don't look great, oh, maybe I have debt, or maybe I'm struggling here. It's like, well, my hope isn't in any of this. um, my hope is somewhere that I believe is eternal. And I think we're wired that way too. I believe we're wired to love and serve others, because that's what feels good. I think everybody loves doing that, even if maybe you aren't the nicest person, or have the best intentions. Like, even I know the Bible says, like even evil people. The verse is like, even evil people will love on their friends, but it takes something special to like love your enemy. And I know it talks about loving your enemy. So uh, yeah, all that to say, if we're loving someone radically, then ultimately they'll want to know what that's about. And at the end of the day, that's all we can do. And so, yeah, I love that. And I so value relationships, and the relationships that I have, and the mentors that I have in my life. On that piece, do you have mentors, or people that you look up to in your life?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one more thing on
Yeah.
loving your enemies. So, anybody who's listening to this who maybe doesn't know God, doesn't follow anything what we're talking about, the guy who involved the horrible car accident years ago, who caused a lot of the trauma and the horrible stuff I've been through in my life, when I started speaking, created this video. It wasn't Steven Spielberg like, it was just, I don't even remember the software I used. It was just pictures I put together, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. And if a young person, especially, sees me in the hospital, they see the cars, the way all this happened as a result of this, like it speaks way more than me telling them in person, like, hey, X, Y, and Z. So, all that to be said, when I was going through it, I included this Bible verse, and it was out of the book of Matthew. And it said, love your enemies as yourself and pray for those who persecute you.
Mm,
And it didn't hit me until a while later, but then I thought to myself, huh, love your enemies as yourself and pray for those who persecute you.
mm.
That's from the book of Matthew. And the guy who hit us, his name is Matthew. So
Wow.
that's where forgiveness, and no matter what the decisions he made back then, that forgiveness was always the answer and always will be the answer. So, all that to be said, I would definitely encourage people, obviously be a light, be kind hearted, but pray for those and forgive those who have hurt you in your life, because that is not the way to live. It'll just continue to hurt you, and you'll just carry all this guilt and this shame and this resentment and bitterness in your heart, and it will weigh you down. So,
Yeah.
it's I had to learn it obviously eventually, and I looked up to people in the spotlight as far as like pastors go, and very sadly, more recently, people like Robert Morris, Tony Evans,
Mm,
Ravi Zacharias, those guys, those men of God, I was looking up to and was like, I want to emulate what they're doing. But obviously, stories have come out about what they were going through and what they did. And it really disheartened me. I didn't obviously turn my back from God, but I was just like questioning, like, where are we falling short? You know, obviously
Mm.
the enemy hits those people who are making a direct impact on millions of people's lives harder than people who aren't. But I don't know, man. It's just I do have mentors. I do have people in my life who I stay in touch with and I reach out to when I need help or direction or guidance or advice. But nobody like that is like a public figure, so to
Yeah.
speak. It's very more close friends than people that I stay in touch with more often.
Yeah. I think it's powerful to have those people, and yeah, it is sad, and when there are leaders in the faith or just people in general that are um that have terrible things going on in their lives, and I think it leads to the point of ultimately we can't make an idol out of those people. Like, no matter how great somebody is, they're always going to let you down, even if it's, yeah, your spouse or your parents or your best friend. Everybody's broken, everybody's sinful. That's the world that we live in. And so, yeah, there's even when there's everybody's dealing with things, everybody has sin and darkness and issues, but hopefully from those people we can still take the good things from them, but yes, not make an idol out of them. But I'm all about having trusted people in your life that you can confide in and lean on. On that piece, do you have like the best advice that you've been given, or the best advice you can give?
The best advice that I could give to anybody, no matter where they are in their life, is to take it one day at a time. Give thanks every single day, the moment you wake up and you breathe your first breath, because it
Mm.
could be your last. And then also, you know, you may not know anything about me. I may not know anything about you, but I know that your life has meaning, your life has purpose. And the best way that I like want to give a message to somebody is through a story, because I feel like it means something to somebody more than me
Yeah.
just giving them niche or a cliche advice.
Mm.
When I gave a live audition years ago, it was for a TEDx talk. So it was a 7-minute speech. I wound up not winning the competition. I talked a little bit about the brain injury, about the car accident. Okay, so I'm off the stage, and at the end of it, this girl comes up to me, and she's like, "Hi, Jonathan. You don't know me, but my name is Sarah." I'm using an example of Sarah. I don't remember what her
Yeah.
name was. "I just want you to know that when you were speaking, I was about to leave the auditorium because the bright lights were making me nauseous. And I recently suffered a brain injury from a softball accident. But
Mm.
as I was approaching the door, I heard you say, there's somebody in here who needs to hear what I have to say." And I turned around and I started crying my eyes out, because finally, for the first time, somebody understood where I was going through, where I was at in my life. Because she even told me recently she's been really, really struggling, like with emotional stuff, mental stuff, as a result of the brain injury. And she said, "I just want to say I'm that person who needed to hear what you had to say."
Wow.
So that was one of those moments where it was like, any advice I can give to anybody is just, you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what battles they're battling with. They may have an invisible illness, an invisible injury. So the best piece of advice is I could give to somebody is always be kind-hearted, whether you're at the grocery store, at the gym, at school, on a podcast. Is always be kind-hearted, stay humble, and then just trust and submit to God. That's ultimately what's going to get you the furthest in life and have the most impact on people.
Yeah. I I love that. I think I would share the same sentiment. I was thinking about it myself just now, and in preparation for this, like what do I think would be the best thing, and I just believe there's so much impact with kindness, showing the love of the Lord. But even in those small interactions, like you said, in the grocery store, or a waiter at a restaurant, or somebody on the street, there's a lot of beauty in that kindness and love, that can have a huge impact, and can open the way for so many people. And so I really love that. I want to talk real quick about jujitsu. Um, wait, what's going on there? Do you compete? Is there maybe for people that don't know, are there like levels that you can rank up in jujitsu, and um, how does that work?
Right. So mixed martial arts, like there's different belts. So for jujitsu, it goes white, blue, purple, brown, black. I'm a blue belt right now. I've been doing it for 3.5 years now, and I train at Peak Performance in Watauga, Texas. My coach is Juan Tatum. Shout out to him. I've known him for a very long time. Basically, everything I've learned on the mat is the result of that man. So I'm eternally grateful for everything he's taught me. All the coaches there have taught me, even the higher belts, the people who have invested time and effort in helping me get better. But yeah, I haven't competed in a minute, but I've done 4 competitions and I got better as I competed in more, obviously, like anything else. And they were nerve wracking as heck, man. Like it's a totally different environment, totally different mindset you have to have compared to stepping up to the line for a race. Because you're basically going into battle. Some the other person is trying to really hurt you, and make you submit or tap
Mhm.
out. In a race, you're just trying to beat everybody or like
Yeah,
get a time PR, So, yeah, it's just a different mindset. But I take it like anything else. I take it one practice at a time and 1 week at a time, and just try to get at least 1% better every single time I step on the mat.
that's great. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I can't imagine. I guess yeah, I've only really competed intensely in running, but yeah, when it comes to something that physical, I mean, I guess I've competed with friends or casually in a lot of other different things, but I think about what my life will look like post running because I won't always try to compete intensely in running, and my body won't allow me to. Although there are a lot of really sweet masters runners. I mean, your father included was crushing it for a long time. Um, but yeah, like what does that look like? Because I feel like I always want to compete in some way, and maybe that's just like YMCA basketball or something. Um, is that something that is important to you, like to or something that you enjoy doing is competing? Is that why you do the jujitsu?
Um, I initially joined it because I wanted to step way out of my comfort zone. I have no history of fighting or martial arts, which some people in there have black belts and other like taekwondo and karate, which is intimidating because when they learn how to grapple and learn how to submit on the ground, they're already trained standing up. So it's like, it's even more intimidating. But I initially joined because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to obviously become somebody that other people wouldn't necessarily want to mess with, and that obviously can defend their friends, their family. If
Yeah,
if stuff goes down, like I know I can seriously hurt somebody. Like, and I don't say that in the most I say that in the humblest way I can, but
yeah,
like I want to be somebody that people don't want to mess with, like a ninja assassin in a way, like the quiet assassin.
yeah,
But just being in that environment, I enjoy practicing, to answer your question, more than competing, because in there, like, it's a safe space. Everybody's trying to get better. We're trying to compete and be competitive, but we're not trying to maliciously hurt each other.
mm,
So it's just different. Like, obviously the videos I'll post, like, it looks like we're going at it, and we kind of are in a way, but at the end of it, we're shaking hands and encouraging each other and all that. And it's just a family environment. Like, even I thought about this yesterday. Like, one of the black belts who I haven't seen in a while came up to me and was like, "How's it going, Jonathan?" And I've only been doing it for a few years. Like, this is somebody who's been doing it for years and years and years. It feels now finally like, even though I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, like I'm still like a part of something. Like, I've had that struggle of belonging to something, and that's why I think I was wanting to search for something else to be a part of. That's why I was so invested in doing these other things career wise. But yeah, it's just such a cool environment, man, and not many people do it. Very few people do jujitsu, and then even fewer compete in it.
yeah.
So I don't know if I'm gonna compete ever again, maybe, but I just enjoy doing it and enjoy being around the people that I get to train and learn from. And yeah, it's just I take it one day at a time because obviously with everything we talked about, I have to be super careful. I even had a discussion with a nurse the other day because when she found out I did jujitsu and I've suffered a TBI, she was like, "Oh, I don't know if that's such a great idea." I was like, "I'm aware, ma'am. Don't worry. I'm totally on guard. No pun intended. Even every time I step on the mat, like especially if it's against a newer person, like I'm totally careful." And my coaches don't really know, like they know a little bit about my history, but like I can't risk it. It's just like a life and death thing for me because of how much trauma my brain and everything has been through. I had a
Yeah.
discussion at practice yesterday with my coach, one of my coaches. I was like, if I get into this position on my left side, like my it's always been my problem child because of the accident, because of the injury. Like I can't risk going with somebody, drilling with somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing because everything will rip really easily compared to the other side. It's like, it's just a reality for me. But I enjoy doing it. I enjoy training. Some days are better than others. After I've trained really hard in the morning, worked all day, I'm exhausted. I think to myself, okay, 99.99% of people would go home and relax and eat and go to bed early and all this other stuff. Very few would go back and train again as hard as they can and be around other like-minded people like that. And so I have to continually, weekly remind myself I want to be a part of that 1% of people in the world that do this and that appreciate what they're able to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just something I've always enjoyed, and I will continue to do it and continue to enjoy it.
That's cool. Yeah, I think there are a lot of cool things that you said there, and in that I think there's still, or I agree, and there's value in you're competing in practice, but it's not in super intense competing like a formal competition, and you're still through practicing you have to compete. It's not like running where you can run by yourself, or weightlifting or something, and so you're there's value in that, like pushing yourself in that, and then yeah, being part of a cool supportive community. Being out of your comfort zone is, you've probably heard the quote, or seen the graphic, like growth only happens outside of your comfort zone. And I think too, like the hard work piece, which is something that I think gets lost. And I wanted to ask you about that. Like, okay, you're part of the 0.01%, the 1% of people that are going back for more. Um, you want to talk about maybe the value from that, or what that's taught you? Because I think ultimately, if we're gonna do impactful things with our life, we have to work super hard to do it.
Yeah, if you want to be an exceptional, inspirational person that adds value to not only your life, but other people's lives, you have to go way out of your comfort zone and put yourself in uncomfortable situations. It's cliche, it's a quote that I've lived by, especially getting involved with the military, is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And jiu-jitsu is a sport that you learn very, very, very quickly. You're going to be uncomfortable, and it will be astronomically worse for you if you tap to pressure. And so when a 300-pound person or a trained purple, brown, black belt is putting so much pressure on your body and you feel like you cannot go anymore, you're going to get disciplined if somebody sees you tapping to that. It's one of those life lessons that you learn, and I learned very quickly, and I apply it to my weight training and to obviously my speaking and stuff because it's an obstacle that you just have to overcome in your mind. David Goggins gets into that a lot with mindset, and
Yeah.
it's you strengthen your mind every time you don't tap, but also it's like, hey, okay, I failed. I submitted to or I got tapped out by a pro boat last night from a body triangle because I got in a bad situation. I can either feel like a failure, I can feel like I sucked, but I can also see, okay, here's what I did right. Here's what I need to do next time, grow from it. So, it's all about mindset. It's
Yep.
all about, hey, it's just you're just callousing your mind, callousing your body, obviously, and then just applying that to other areas of your life where you see like you're lacking. And I feel like for me personally, it's like, hey, I'm not where I'm at in my career yet. I'm not where I want to be at in my relationship life. I'm not where I'm at financially, but here's what I've done and here's what I can apply to those areas of my life and then just keep working towards them. So, it's all about gratitude, yes, but it's also about, hey, you need to keep working because those areas that you're lacking, maybe some other area you can use the positive, use the good, and then that will eventually catapult you into where you want to go and where you want to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, and I the pressure piece, especially, like pressure is a privilege, and healthy pressure is really good. And then I think the other piece of um I guess continuing on, when I think about pressure, like people can tend to paint it in a negative way, but it's a blessing to be able to have something um, to have to work toward, and to feel feel like you need to execute on. And yeah, it's how the mindset of how you respond to it, like, okay, how am I going to win this battle, win this moment, um execute this race, whatever it is you're doing in life. But then also on top of that, it made me think about just the hard work piece. Like, so often when you take somebody that's, a millionaire or owns this company, or maybe they're crushing the influencer game, for example, you don't see the 99 or 599 failures behind that, or all the hours, all of the time, energy that they put in. You only see the sweet video, or you only see the cleaned up website with the awesome product offering. You don't know that they were bankrupt for a while, or they were living at their mom's house in the basement or something. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think one of my favorite quotes is, people give up on their dreams when they see how far they have to go instead of seeing how far they've come. And I think it's really easy to get discouraged and to fold under the pressure. And um, I think that's so much about what the tour is about, and what it sounds like that you're doing too, is like, hey, if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. And so it's going to be difficult to achieve what you want to achieve and what you believe you're called to. And so there's no substitute for getting after it. And it's easier said than done. And some people listening to this might be like, yeah, duh. But it's like, no, you have to approach every day like that. And so um, I really love that. I know we're at time. We've been going for a while, but I wanted to ask, before we close, a couple fun questions for you. What are some like hobbies or things that you do outside of all that you're doing?
Bro, when I get asked that question, like I'm just like, it depends on the day, but I'm very laid back. Like I'm pretty much the majority of the time I'm either at home, at work, at the gym, or at the grocery store. Like I'm very like, because I'm so focused on building my platform, building my brand, and obviously the channel and the podcast. Like I'm so invested and so like focused on doing all that to where like I don't go out, I don't do very many like things outside of those. So like it kind of just depends. If somebody invites me to go bowling or go to the movies or whatever, yeah, I'll tag along if I have time or I have money. But those obviously are very, very important.
Yeah.
So it kind of just depends though on the day to answer your question.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, it's hard sometimes to find the time with all we have going on. And yeah, as you get older, I feel like there's just more, kind of what we touched on earlier, there's more to be responsible for. And or maybe that was before the pod, or maybe it was during. But um yeah, life can be busy, but there is a ton of value in the rest too, something that I'm really trying to learn, the Sabbath. But the the final question that I ask every guest is, what would be a quirky household feature that you would like to have in your house? Um, this is something that's different. So my answer to this question is, I would love to have an indoor basketball court. Um, so I don't know if you've ever thought about, like, oh, what does a dream home look like? Maybe what would be something that's kind of crazy that I would like to have in the house.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you bring that up. I have recently seen like my dream home, seen the setup and all that. To keep a long story short, I damn near pulled my or tore my hamstring recently, like a few months ago.
Oh
And
no.
the really kind customer who I worked with saw I was like barely able to like move around and able to like function because it hurt so bad, Austin. Like I kid you not. And she was like, "What happened?" So I explained, and she's like, "Oh, you can use our ice plunging machine. We just got one." And they live in a very wealthy part of town in Westlake.
Yeah.
So this lady who I had never met before, a total stranger to, she just I guess had a heartfelt, you know, moment to where like, hey, this guy needs help. So she gave me access to the ice plunging machine. Like it's gated community, the whole nine yards. The home is probably worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. I'm terrified to death because I'm on the bottom of the middle class of the economy. So I'm going in this place like I'm gonna get the cops called on me. Like this is bad. So yeah, I go and use that. But in the very beginning, she showed me her house and the layout, and I was like, it's got an indoor gym, it's got TVs, it's got a wine cellar, which I wouldn't use because I don't drink. She's got furniture outside. They've got the bonfire outside. They've got a lake. They got ponds. They
Wow.
have all these things. They probably even have an indoor basketball facility. I didn't even see it, but like, dude, it was just one of the coolest setups I've ever seen. So
Oh man.
indoor gym, dude, the indoor basketball court would be legit. And then
Oh my gosh.
anything else that the wife would want in there as well, that would be obviously important.
Yeah.
But yeah, those would probably be the at the top of the list.
Yeah, cold plunging, that's like all the rage. That is sweet, but yeah, I just think about waking up in the slippers and just putting a couple shots up. I mean, I love basketball. I don't play it that much because, well, funny enough, my wrist is still messed up. I was just shooting around with some friends and I fell on it like 5 months ago and it's still messed up. So that's why I don't play it. But that'll be a post competitive running thing. But yeah, man, some of those houses in Texas are nuts. I know I one of the craziest I ever went to is a town called Prosper, which is outside of the Dallas Fort Worth area, if you've heard of it. And they had upstairs night like a replica of what an MLB diamond looks like. So 90 feet to first, 90 feet to second, like legit. The outfield, it just went just a little bit past the bases. It was indoors, and so it wasn't like a full indoor stadium upstairs, but it was like a legit baseball diamond because one of the sons played baseball, and I was like, this is unreal. It was just like this massive room upstairs, and so Texas, yeah, some of the Texas houses are just different. But that's sweet, man. And yeah, Jonathan, did you have any other questions or any other pieces that you wanted to talk about or?
Yeah, I just wanted to reassure your audience that this is not alcohol. This is sparkling water. A guy at the store this morning was making sure that I wasn't buying alcohol at like 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, "No, bro, don't worry. It's just sparkling water." He's like, "Okay, I just had to make sure." I
That's
guess I
dope.
look underage too, but yeah.
that
Um,
looks that looks nice sparkling
Yeah, I
water.
appreciate it. But yeah, no, I'm really thankful that you invited me on your podcast and really happy that you're doing things you're doing and you're living your life the way you're living it and obviously living for the Lord. And yeah, man, I'm just inspired as somebody who's a few years older from all the things that you've accomplished in your life and are doing. And yeah, it's very heartwarming to know that there's still people in the generation, mine and even the one right below it, that are doing great things and using their time and their resources to help other people. So,
Oh
I
man.
guess the one question I would say or ask you is what is your next goal since you've accomplished the 4 minute barrier, breaking the 4 minute barrier that you're
Yeah.
working towards right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And but before I continue, I just want to say thank you. You're very kind. I mirror a lot the same to you. Look up to you a lot, and grateful for a friend like you in my life, and just super excited for what you got coming, and proud of what you've done. And yeah, just love your love for the Lord and mindset and approach toward life. And I think that's unstoppable. But for me, yeah, when it comes to my running and in my life, really, yeah, it's certainly changed a ton since I found the Lord in when I was 21. But I think my ultimate goal with running at least is just to be a light in the running community, and I believe that is kind of that's mirrored with running quicker. I think that's also partly like I want to get the most out of my talent, out of my ability that I've been given. Running is my God given ability, and the I guess harsh truth of it is that the faster you run, the more people listen. I guess that's kind of the same anywhere. Like people will listen to successful people. And so I believe the Lord has given me this ability, this platform, and allowed me to run faster, to give the glory back to Him, and to show that there's a way, a different way to approach running. Because I think running specifically and sport in general can be very selfish, um, and you can very quickly make it about yourself. And oh, look at me, look at what I'm doing. I'm amazing. Whereas I think that that's a very shaky foundation to live on. When you're basing how you're feeling or how you're performing on your life, it's a rocky roller coaster. And so my, I think, ultimate goal with running and I guess even life in general is to just try to be a light in all the places that I'm in. Use my talents, whether it's exhortation or whether it's extroversion or running or my niche e-commerce knowledge. It's how can I get better at what I'm doing, and how can I just point that success right back to the Lord. And so, um, yeah, I don't necessarily have a time goal, or I would never say like that it's what I've done is a failure. If I don't make the Olympics, I'm a failure, because I think I know that God makes it clear whatever ends up happening is what's supposed to happen. And so, yeah, I think the last piece that I'll say there is I mentioned earlier I ran four flat in the mile when I was 19, and if I'd just run a little faster, I would have run 3:59. But at that point in my life, I would have made that accomplishment about myself, and I fully believe that God's delay there wasn't Him denying that promise in my life. Like God's delays aren't His denials is a quote that I live by. But I was able to break the 4 minute mile when I was 26, and I was able to make it not about me, but about Him. And so, um, I believe that He was just preparing me for that. And I think it took a lot of, I think with anyone in life, we all reach that point where we can't do it on our own. And so it took a lot of injury. It took a lot of wrestling with God and a lot of failures in life, relationship, general, for me to finally be like, okay, I can't do. I need a savior. I can't do life on my own. And I think ultimately too, I was able to let running go. And when I was able to let running go, it's funny. I started running better because I wasn't basing my worth on it. I wasn't holding it as tightly as I was earlier in life. So, a very long answer to your question, but I think something that has rang true for me and very powerful for me. A couple of those things there. So I appreciate that. Right back at you. What kind of to end things? I know I had the last question, but do you have a goal for what's next, or do you have like an ultimate goal, or are you kind of just continuing to lean into areas that are opportunities?
Uh, yes, I definitely have goals. When it comes to like podcasting and stuff, that's where I feel like my career is going in that direction. Because obviously, my speaking, I have an ability to communicate and to speak in front of a camera and to speak in front of audiences. So I feel like it translates very easily. But the foundation is built. I just need to keep building it and keep getting better and better and more comfortable. And then obviously reach out to people. And if I get turned down, just ask the next person. And then you never know who you talk with, who you connect with. You never know who they know. So that's definitely what I'm continuing to work towards, because I definitely want to make this my career and make more of an impact on even more people than I already have. When it comes to like athletically, like the example I've continued to use and I've shared it with a few people. A year and a half ago, I got my blue belt. So going from white to blue in jiu-jitsu is very difficult because like 80 to 90% of people quit.
Mm.
So the week I got my blue belt, to keep it a long story short, that Tuesday I went through the blue belt testing, which is a 30-minute test straight. You're just getting for 1 minute, white to blue black belt. They all are beating you to death, basically. So you're just getting pummeled by so many people. You no breaks, no nothing. So get my blue belt Tuesday. 4 days later, I'm competing in my next tournament, my fourth one, which I stepped on the mat that day on Saturday as a blue belt. I was expecting to go into that tournament as a white belt, more confident. Okay, I'm going to do really well this time. I step on that mat against a four stripe blue belt, which is basically he's about to get his purple belt. So the dude's experience, I didn't care at that point. I went in with a full faith. I even told one of my teammates who was competing too. I was like, dude, no matter what happens, no matter who the guy is I'm going up against, I'm going to go up against him with the full confidence, full faith, no matter what the results are. And I've shared the video before, but I share it not to brag about myself or to like look what I've done or look who I am. I leaned more into the Lord in that 3 minutes on the mat, or it was like a minute and a half when I finally got the tap than I ever have in my life, especially in jiu-jitsu. And so I want to continue to carry that momentum forward in whatever I do, whatever my goals are. Whether I compete at the World Masters Championships, whether I do something fun and running or whatever, it's the sky's the limit basically at this point. I'm just continuing to take it one day at a time and trying to stay as healthy as I can, which obviously has kind of been a crutch for me these last few years. But I don't really know as far as what my goals are. I'm just trying to keep my heart and eyes open and just
Yeah,
taking it one day at a time basically.
dude, love that, love that, and I think that's going to speak to a lot of people is having that tenacity and that trust. But man, so appreciate you taking all the time that you have, and yeah, just look up to you a lot, value your friendship, and excited to continue to follow your journey and be a part of the journey. And um, yeah, here's to what's next.
Likewise, brother. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man.